Between what we've lived through and what our day jobs demand, we've spent some serious time researching neuroscience. The pattern we keep seeing is the way we think shapes the way we behave. And over time, those behaviors shape our outcomes, often before we even realize we've made a choice.
So in that research of neuroscience, it opened the door to neuroplasticity, habit loops, stress responses, microdecisions, all the brainy stuff that explains why just try harder is a trash strategy. In this lab, we're rewiring habits one experiment at a time.
Welcome to I² Lab. The map is not the territory. When the path you planned meets the road you're actually on. So what the heck am I even talking about? I love this because I've been trying to figure out a way, and I'm sure there's about 1,000 different ways we'll be able to explain this over the years in the lab, but I really want to try and get to the root of the scale being the only tool that you measure your progress by. And yes, we could talk about other ways you measure your progress. You could take pictures. You can take your measurements every once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever you want to do. I did it once a month, but I didn't do it at first. So I don't have my actual beginning measurements. I didn't measure myself until 3 months into my weight loss journey. So I was already down 50 pounds. So, but we focus so much on the scale. So what does this mean? Every weight loss plan is a map. Whether it's Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig.
Is that even still around?
I don't know. When I said it, I was like, I don't even know if this is, like, people are going to hear me like, what's that? What's that?
Nutrisystem, is that even still around?
Protein first, the Mediterranean diet, whatever it is, whatever the weight loss plan is, think of that as the map.
Yep.
And maps are remarkably useful right up until the moment the bridge is washed out. The tree is down across the path. The road your map shows doesn't match the ground beneath your feet. The map didn't fail you. You just need a new route to the same destination. So
what you're saying there is, just so I'm following you.
Yeah.
Like you're at a restaurant. First time you're at a restaurant.
Here we go. Let's get into it.
Okay. So I'm just trying to follow along here. You're at a restaurant, you had planned to get grilled chicken. They don't have grilled chicken. The map didn't plan for that.
Nope.
Or maybe
the bridge is down.
The bridge is down. This is someone, you had a death in the family.
Yeah.
Or you lost your job, something tragic like that.
The
map didn't plan
emotional world has been rocked in some way.
How
you
do
had
you
a
deal
shitty
with that?
Conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And
the map didn't tell you how to deal with that kind of tragic event.
Nope.
How do you comfort yourself with that?
Right.
Okay.
Where's the support there?
Yeah. That's an interesting concept.
So you made a plan. Maybe it was a meal plan. Maybe it was a walking schedule with some friends. Maybe it was, a calorie target, a sleep goal, a promise to yourself that this time would be different. And then life showed up in some way. It doesn't even have to be dramatically. It doesn't have to be a death. It could be something.
I went really dramatic, sorry.
Well, but I think people think of, it's got to be trauma with a capital T or, something, a big event that throws you off track. That could be the tree down or the bridge washed out.
It's a cookie on the counter. It could be small.
It could be anything like that. It could just be a friend completely innocently eating a butterscotch, candy in front of you. They're not even offering it to you. But there's something about it that you don't feel like you're a part of this conversation if you're not having one with them. Because socially, you've just conditioned yourself that that's what you do. That it could be that inoculant. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Not necessarily with a crisis or a catastrophe. Just a tree down across the path, a bridge washed out, a detour that wasn't on the map. And I think we believe somewhere in our heart of hearts, when we come up against these in our weight loss journey, that we've done something wrong. So this phrase comes from philosopher and scientist Alfred Korzybski, who wrote in 1931 in his landmark work, Science and Sanity, that the map is a representation of reality, not reality itself. It is a guide, a simplified picture of a complex terrain. And how complex is weight loss mode? I mean, it could get wild.
Yeah.
Useful, necessary, important, of course, but never the same as the actual ground you're walking on. And the actual ground of weight loss journey is almost never exactly what the map showed. Almost never.
Well, and you were talking, I was thinking about a map. Like when you're on vacation, I was thinking actually of my honeymoon. So we took Route 66 out to LA, and it was long enough ago where we didn't have iPhones, where it literally, you just put in where you were going.
You printed out MapQuest or something. Yeah,
yes,
I
we
remember
literally printed out. I think we actually had a Garmin too to actually help us, but it was still like recalculating, it was so annoying. So we actually had some printed out maps because it was taking us in crazy areas, and we were in places that had no internet too.
Right.
It was nuts.
There was no connection.
So it's interesting because you can have a map and be with a person who you love, who is driving the car, who doesn't necessarily follow the directions or necessarily stop and ask for directions, even though they have the map. So I was thinking this when you were talking, and I mentioned the cookie on the counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cookie on the counter is not necessarily in your map, but sometimes we still eat the cookie.
Mm-hmm.
So then you started to go into, it's not really based on reality.
Yeah.
It's based on what we want reality to be like. So that's interesting that we went there.
I mean, the map leaves things out. So Alfred was a Polish American scientist and philosopher whose work in the early 20th century explored how human beings use language and mental models to represent reality.
Yeah.
And how the confusion between the model and reality itself leads to flawed thinking and behavior. And that's what really drew me to this, just this kind of sentence and phrase to start to really internalize on, like thinking, flawed thinking, and behavior. Yeah.
Yes.
His foundation work, Science and Sanity, published in 1933, it introduced the principle that a map, any model, plan, belief, or representation is always a simplification of the territory it describes. So the map leaves things out.
Yeah.
The map cannot account for what changes after it is drawn either. And every one of us, even though, and this is one thing I'm really working on this year, one of my things I'm really turning and trying to be curious to and pay attention to is my lived experience with my weight loss is not going to be everyone's lived experience. Just because this worked for me and I ate like this and I did this amount of carbs and this many calories doesn't mean that that's what you're going to experience.
Right.
The moment for me that was maybe my hard part in the middle of it all, because you always have this part in the middle of your journey. It's not, when I say middle, it's not like directly smack dab in the middle of your journey. There's a part of your journey where you're going to look up and go, what am I doing? Is this still what I want to do? Because you've changed enough, but also not enough. Mm-hmm. And it's that really precarious part where you're just teetering on the edge of becoming that new person. But you could still look back and see how far you've come, but you look forward and you can actually see how far you still have to go. Mm-hmm. And that's those are the moments when it's like, which way do you want to turn? Because you could easily go back. I could easily stop walking every day. Gosh, how easy would that be? I could easily stop drinking my water every day. I could easily let the boundaries around my sleep slip a little bit here and there. I could easily let some of my calories come up a little bit or not worry if the scale says 100 grams exactly. Maybe it starts to say 120 grams and I start to be okay with that. So I want to be careful when I talk about this because I want people to realize that they can have enough flexibility because the plan isn't always going to meet reality. So you have to be flexible, but you also have to get back on the trail too. The way you get back on it may not have to be to take that exact path that the map was telling you, though. You might have to get off of it for a day or two.
And how do you think, I think I know the answer, but I want to know your opinion. How do you think, it seems like there's a fine line between being flexible and not being too rigid and white knuckling it, right? And it has to be exactly 100 grams. It has to be exactly 100 grams. And, you know, it's a balance between having it be exact and having it be too far the other way.
Yep.
So
where is that?
Where is it? Yeah. And I feel like I know my answer, but what is it to you?
This is what I struggle with because I'm going to tell you my answer.
Yeah.
My answer and the way my brain works around food is I am better off if most of my days are exactly 100 grams.
Yeah.
I do better when I know that it's 100 grams. That's exactly what I need, no more, no less. And I get the dopamine hit from knowing that that is what I've done and that's getting me one step closer to my goal.
Okay.
To me, that is the line I draw. Now, I also have really worked hard at this because I'm an all or nothing thinker or whatever, however you want to call it. But you have to allow yourself a little bit more sometimes. But I think what's tricky is what quantity is sometimes for somebody. Okay. Is it once? I had 100 and I'm out at this restaurant. I'm not going to weigh and measure my food. It looks like it's about 100 grams. We're just using 100 grams phonetically here, obviously. Yeah. So this looks like it might have been 150. It might have been 90. It might have been 110.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with that once in a while. And I've said this before too, on another podcast that I did with somebody else, that you have to have more on days than off days. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out a better way to say on plan or off plan because it still carries the morality of it. Like it's good or bad.
Accurate. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better word.
I know. I've been playing with this. Like, yeah, I know. But it does hold. But phonetics are important. Yeah, the way we say things is really important
semantics, to our. But
semantics,
not
phonetics. God.
It's okay. I was like, yeah,
semantics
or semantics,
or semantics.
Yeah,
idiot.
and semantics. No,
it's important the way we say things, even because our subconscious mind is going to hear it.
Absolutely, it has meaning.
It has
meaning.
It has true meaning.
Yeah. No, I think that's good because I was going to ask you why does that matter to you, but you said it was the dopamine hit, so it's rewarding for you to
be exact.
Be so exact.
Yeah. But I also have to allow, it's also okay to have a day where, I think I've said this before in another one, where you throw up a 7 out of a 10.
Yeah.
It's better than throwing up a 0.
And you have to be okay with that.
You have to be okay with that. You can still give your brain evidence that you are still making progress. Is it perfected progress? Okay, maybe not. But let's give it a score.
Yeah.
Okay, let's really put something around it. It's not a 0. And that is the part that was missing for me on other times around the mountain. It was if it wasn't 100 grams, it was a 0. It was a 0. But let's be clear. If it's 105 grams, I would probably still give it an A-, a B+ for the day. So let's really put some evidence around what it actually is and not make it out to be the all or nothing that it isn't.
I think that's good. My answer or thought was you just have to know yourself. And I think that's what you just said, basically. You know yourself because you have to be accurate because that gives you the reward.
Yeah. And then I have to get curious to what would it mean if you weren't as accurate?
Right.
What would that mean about your identity? What would that mean about how you show up, how others perceive you? all the things that are wrapped
Right.
in whatever kind of package that is.
I think you have to know yourself, and I think you have to constantly make meaning of it. That's important to me too. I think you have to make meaning of what you are experiencing in that day, and I think grading it and scaling it is important too. So, sorry, keep
No,
going.
no.
I wanted to pause there because I think that's important to consider that.
There's some setback research that I wanted to bring up too that was around this, and like what happens when people do hit obstacles. So in 2010, researchers Dr. Janet Polivy and Dr. C. Peter Herman at the University of Toronto, whose work on dietary restraint and the what the hell effect, which is actually a thing. Have we talked about that before?
No.
It's actually a psychology term. It's called the what the hell effect.
What's the hell effect? Okay.
So it's just, when you're like, I finally eat the cookie and you're like, oh, what the hell? I'm just going to go have a pizza and blah, blah, blah. It's just like you throw your arms up and you're like, it's actually a psychology.
That's a clinical psychological effect. Okay.
So it's the what the hell effect. We have I've referenced before. I don't know if we've referenced it on one of the podcasts yet.
I don't think so.
But in the group.
If we did, I wasn't paying attention.
It was published, they published a comprehensive review and psychological bulletin examining how many people respond to setbacks in their health behavior change. So their analysis of decades of research revealed a pattern they described as the abstinence violation effect. Abstinence violation effect. First identified by researchers Marlett and Gordon in their 1985 work on relapse prevention, published by Guilford Press. I know this is a lot of words, but I also wanted to say this actually is backed by studies and science.
Because people can look into it more if they're interested.
Yeah, and we could put it in the show notes too if they're really interested. So here's what the abstinence violation effect describes. When someone committed to a behavior change goal, like, okay, I am going to lose 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a behavior change.
Yep, and that's a goal. It could be stopping drinking. It doesn't have to be weight loss. It could be stopping smoking, following a diet, of course, maintaining some sort of a physical movement routine. Experienced a single lapse or violation of the plan, they were highly likely to interpret that single lapse as total failure. The internal narrative went like this. I had a plan. I violated the plan. Therefore, the plan and I have failed. Which is the epitome of the all or nothing thinking, right? Mm-hmm. And having defined the situation as total failure, they abandoned the goal entirely, which is the what the hell effect. Not because one lapse had actually derailed the progress. That's what I want people to really hear and start showing themselves the true evidence of. This one lapse, this one bite off plan, this one meal, this one day even, maybe even 2 days. It didn't actually derail your entire progress. But because they had confused the map for the territory. And I want to, if there's one thing we get out of this one, I want to try and separate the plan from the actual reality of it. So they confused the map for the territory. They believed the plan was the journey. And when the plan was just disrupted, they believed the journey was over because they had connected those two so tightly, and they're not. We have to separate the two. This confusion between a detour and a dead end was the single most powerful predictor of complete abandonment of health behavior goals following a setback. And this is what came out of their research. The tree fell across the path, and instead of walking around it, they just went home. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do. We have one cupcake, and we completely turn around and gain 50 pounds back.
Mm-hmm. It's like if you're on vacation and you miss your turn, you just don't make it to your destination.
I'm just gonna go home,
or you just stop off at that exit and you just have vacation there.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not going to go to Florida. I'm just going to stay in Kentucky.
Exactly. There was another analogy I heard someone say once, and she said, what do you do when you get a flat tire?
You fix it.
You fix the flat
patch it or
tire
you get
and then
another
you keep
tire. Yeah.
going. You don't
Yeah.
just go, well,
Guess we're done.
I guess that's it. Not going to drive this car anymore.
I guess this car is just completely done. I need a whole new one. just leave this where it lay.
It's fine. I don't know.
This is just going to live here on the side of the road for the rest of its life.
I mean, we don't do that at all.
No.
And you're right. You take a wrong turn, you take a U-turn and you get back on.
I was also thinking of a sports analogy when you were talking, like your kid is playing baseball, and it's like they're going to miss. They don't hit the ball every time.
Yeah.
And they don't just stop playing. Like you're going to miss sometimes. You're going to make a mistake. You're not, it's not going to be perfect every time.
Yeah, it's giving yourself
learning.
permit. It's learning.
Yeah.
And what is learning? It's uncomfortable.
Sometimes
it's frustration.
you
It's confusion. And if you're not confused and frustrated and, you aren't learning something new. We've heard that before.
This is I've never thought of it this, I've thought of it this way, but I've never thought of it this deeply, honestly. This is a very interesting concept.
Every person has had some kind of a plan that they.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if they've been on some, if they've been somebody who struggled with their weight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be weight. It could be anything. I had a plan to quit smoking. I had a plan to make my finances better, more stable, blah, 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 whatever it is, any kind of behavior change. You had a plan. So you had a map. And every person has hit at least one point where the territory didn't match it. I was saving something. I was really saving for this one thing. It could be money, but I got a flat tire. Guess what that costs? Money that I hadn't planned to spend. So now there's a setback. There's some sort of a setback, and we see that as our failure around it. The week fell apart. The scale that went the wrong direction, even though you had a perfect week. And I've had that before. There was always 1 week out of the month in my 18 months of weight loss mode this time around where I didn't lose or I even gained. And I would stomp out of that bathroom, throw my hands up in the air and just declare, well, I guess I'm done losing weight.
Yeah.
And Randy was like, okay, this must be that 1 week during the month when we got to be all right with this kind of thing. The event that derailed the meal plan. Was it the vacation to Harry Potter World? What would it have looked like if I got back, had gained 10 pounds, and just stopped?
Yeah.
The injury that stopped the workouts. I haven't gotten there yet. I did have my back kind of tweak a little bit, but I didn't stop working out. We just altered the plan. We didn't stop working out. And if I didn't have a personal trainer when I had tweaked my back early on when I first started lifting, I would have 100% just not have went back to the gym. I need to rest. I would have come up with every excuse in the book not to, because that's what we're told, right?
Right.
You have to rest the injury. Why would I want to go back into the gym and do other things that could potentially hurt me? He was like, no. I was there 3 days a week with my personal trainer still. That was the time when he was like, I don't want you lifting any free weights. I don't want you lifting any of those if I'm not around. I only want you on the machines. And we're going to do this kind of thing. And we just did a bunch of small muscle type work to really build that. It took me about probably 4 weeks to fully recover from that. None of those moments were the journey ending, or they don't have to be. They were the territory showing you something the map hadn't. And the territory will always look different every year. I'm in maintenance now. I'm in my is this the third year? I think this is my third year of maintenance. I'm like, what year is it? I don't even know. But every year is going to be different. Every Christmas is going to be a little bit different. Christmas is the hardest time for me. Thanksgiving, Halloween, not a big deal. But as I go into Christmas, there's something about that time, but it's different every year. It's been there's been something else about it that I've had to wrestle with in a different way. It's not just the cookies or the fun coffee drinks that you see that come out that time of year that I want to experience. And every time I give into one of them, I'm like, it's not even that good. It's something different. So the territory is going to change. No matter how many times you think you've crossed this ravine, this path, this bridge, whatever, it could feel different every time. And I don't think we should be scared of that. And there's something about knowing something is coming that doesn't catch you so flat-footed. And I don't know if I'm doing this as good of a justice as I want to. I mean, add the only question, and the only question that matters when you hit any of these is the one the best navigators ask, not why did this happen to me?
Yeah. Victim mentality.
Not
like my alarm bells are going off
exactly.
a little bit with
Not
that. Yeah.
does this mean I can't do this? That's not the best question.
Yeah.
But what is the next route from here to where I am going?
How do I handle this?
How do I still move forward, but take a small detour, but get right back on the damn map? Because the destination has not moved. The bridge just washed out. And there's always another way across.
Find a boat.
Find a boat.
Build a boat. Find a boat.
Phone a friend.
Figure out how to swim. Figure it out.
And I'm trying to think of other things that this could show up as. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this reminds me a little bit of IPO, but we don't have to go there.
No,
yet.
I think we should because I think it's a part of it.
We've talked about it a little bit. We sprinkled that concept.
Let's go into it.
Okay, but we haven't dug deep into that in the past, and we might want to talk about that a little bit more. We talk about that in the class that we teach. I is inputs, P is process, and O is outputs. And we talk a lot about how people always focus on O is the outputs.
Which is the scale.
We're always looking at our weight, the numbers, the outputs.
Got to get down to 150. Got to get down to 125. Got to get down to below 200. Whatever that first or that next goal is. And some people just need like a 5-pound like goal or 10-pound goal. Mine was usually like 10 pounds. Like let's just get to the next decade of numbers is what we kind of call it. Like, I'm in a new decade of numbers.
And whenever you're doing a change in life, whether it's and we use IPO, we use that in business, but it's a good process to use in life in general. And so we relate it a lot with weight loss as well. It's any kind of system, basically. The O is important. We're not saying don't focus on it. And whenever you're going to go through a system or process change, start with the O. So, for example, if you're looking at weight loss, you want to look at what you want your output to be. So what do you want? What do you think, or what do you want to determine is a healthy weight for you to be? So you want to start with the O to determine what you want your inputs and your process to be.
And what is the first thing typically people do when they are starting something? Well, I got to get on the scale.
Yep.
I got to know you got to know the
what you're
data.
starting with.
You have to know the data. So I don't want people to think I'm like, oh, she doesn't want anybody to get on the
Don't
scale.
focus on the numbers. We're not saying that.
No.
Just don't only focus on the numbers. So we definitely start with the output to figure out what our inputs and our process will be. But the input is definitely what we control. And in weight loss, what would you determine what the inputs would be?
I mean, that's the food. That's the
The things that we can
calories.
control.
That's your protein. That's your fiber. It's what you eat. It could be how much you move, even though I don't believe you should count on exercise at all for weight loss. But it does do so many other things for you. It regulates mood. It helps with hormones. It actually gives you a hit of dopamine if you move the body. There's actually hormones that your muscles secrete that you don't get any other time, or maybe they're not hormones, they're molecules. It's like, and they call them hope molecules. It actually helps you be more resilient. It's really cool. And we might have to go into that on another one. It's
cool.
And it only happens during exercise, resistance training especially. It's pretty cool. It helps fight against stress. And so movement is fantastic, but I wouldn't rest any big rocks on movement as being a weight loss strategy in and of itself. But sleep, that's an input. If you're not sleeping, you are not losing. If you're not sleeping, you aren't as cognitively, your prefrontal cortex isn't going to be online as much as it needs to be to make the best decisions for the day, to focus on the goals. It's to say you're not sleeping, you're not losing is true, but it's so much more than that. It provides so much metabolically for you to be able to lose the weight. Stress management is also another one that would be an input. Environment is a big one. Environment is a big one. If you have not, and I have to say this carefully because we have people who have kids and husbands who aren't going to be on a weight loss journey. But if you're walking around in the same house, in the same setup that got you to where you are, it is going to be very hard for you to stick with the habit change that you need. So the environment does need to change in some way for you. Things don't need to be I'm not saying they don't need to be in the house completely, but maybe they don't. There's a lot of situations where we have people who are married where the husband is not doing any of these things and he wants to have his chips and crackers and whatever it is. And we've asked before if, at least for a period of time while this individual, the wife, let's say it's the wife who's on a journey and the husband isn't, just for this context, that is it possible that we put those in a tote in the garage?
Yeah.
That's or
Can you do this for me?
or some kind of a container that isn't see-through.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about the visual of it, not having it on the counter.
Yeah.
It's in this one shelf on this cabinet that is
In the top shelf of the pantry.
Yeah, it's off limits to it. There's
Yeah.
something in your brain where you could say that it's not mine,
Yeah.
not my food. It's off limits for me. Those are things that are 100% within your control.
Mm-hmm.
Putting things that you have this one shelf. This is your food. This is your stuff. So the environment is important, and not just food, but the routine of things. Do you lay out your clothes for the next day if you are going to walk in the morning with a friend?
Mm-hmm.
And then just making the plans, food prepping, that's a part of the environment too. Sleeping, having the room nice and cool and dark. Do you have, it's starting to be spring and summer right now at the time we're recording this. So I need to pull out, it's going to be light at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night before too long. I need to pull out the blackout curtains because if any of that light is coming in, then you aren't producing as much, you're not able to produce as much melatonin as you might need.
Yeah.
So environment is a big one. Those are what I would consider the inputs. So eat what you eat, moving the body, sleep, anything you put in your body, which includes the water too.
Mm-hmm. I would also say that this community is your environment.
That's a big one.
The people that you hang out with, too, at work. The people that I work with is a big part of my environment too. We eat lunch together sometimes. So if I have a support group at work, it's just nice. They see what you're doing and they help support you, and it's just very nice.
That's a point. That's a good point, because it also, and I don't like to say no a lot to going out to lunch, but some days I am more vulnerable and fragile than other days. And you know what? I just don't need to play with fire on those days. Right. So I don't do lunch that day. I don't not do lunch all the time, but I don't have to do lunch every time either.
I have an office right next to the coworker that I have an office right next to. She is doing something similar to what I'm doing, and we both know it. And we go out to lunch as a whole HR team once a month. And she's always like, "Are you going with the team today?" And I'm like, she'll always ask, like, "What are you going to get? Did you look at the menu?" And we'll just kind of like talk. If we were both going, we'll just kind of talk it out what we're going to get. Or it's just, I'll just look at her and I'm just like, "Not today." And she
I didn't go to this last week's.
Yeah.
And not because of that, but
Yeah.
I was actually busy.
I was too. I had a meeting,
but it was at Freddy's.
Freddy's, yeah.
Yeah.
They have like a grilled chicken salad or something.
You could do a lettuce wrap burger there too.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You could do surprisingly, you can do pretty well at burger joints.
Yeah. You
Like
just do
it's-
like a lettuce wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually not as hard to navigate as I think first blush
Yeah.
they could be. What's interesting though is I immediately thought, what would I get?
Yeah. Every time. What's my plan?
That's
What's
the
my map?
process.
Yep.
What's your map?
What's your map? That's the map, the plan is the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up.
And of course, well, that's the inputs. Or would you think the map is the process?
I feel like the plan itself, what you're doing, the activities, the physical.
Are the inputs? Because the inputs, process, and then of course the output is the scale.
I would feel like the process, the actual how you're doing it, the how would be the process.
Like what your body does.
Yeah.
So how your body responds to those inputs is the process.
I would think so.
So the inputs
we're
is the
talking
map.
this out in real time.
Yeah, I know. We're like, what is this? How do we relate this?
Yeah, we're like, how do we relate this to weight loss? Because this is actually, just to let you guys know, this is systems theory.
Yeah.
This actually came from the 1940s, 1950s, and then really became popular in the 1980s by Richard Hackman. Sorry, let me pronounce his name properly. So it's actually used across multiple disciplines to define total systems. So inputs, processes, outputs, and it's used in manufacturing processes. It's used in all kinds of processes. So to relate it to weight loss is kind of unique.
So we're taking a spin with it.
Yeah.
At work, we have a target for the year. Like we're going to do $1 billion. That's the O. That's the outcome. That's the goal. So we can just sit in a room at January 1st and say, we're going to do $1 billion this year. But what are you going to do to get there? That's the whole point behind like the work side of it. So what are all the inputs we're going to do? What is the strategy behind it? Which is, goes into the process of, okay, we're going to hit these customers and we're going to drive these types of industries and we're going to make sure that this is what they're looking for. So this is what we're going to give them. So those are the inputs. And then the process, which will drive the O. If you have the idea from a business systems, from a process perspective, if you're doing all the right things, all of the right inputs, and then let's bring this to weight loss, if you are putting all the right foods in your body, in the calorie, in the deficit that you're looking to have, and you have the macros can get really specific, protein, fiber, that kind of stuff. But that could be a part of it, what you're really striving for, because you might just feel better with a higher fat percentage because it keeps you satiated longer. Or you might be somebody that needs a little more fiber just because maybe your gut responds better to that. And then how much you're moving, how your stress management. Are you keeping your cortisol at least somewhat in check? Nobody says it's going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be chronically high because that's going to jack with all of your insulin, your leptin, your ghrelin. That's going to affect the process. That's going to affect what your body does with those inputs.
No, I just changed my mind. The inputs is the map.
Yeah, I think so.
We just talked it through and I was like, no, it's the process. Nope. The map is the inputs.
At least the map is a part of the inputs. It's not
100%.
maybe all of it, but it is all of those things. It's the environment, it's the stress management, it's the sleep, it is the food, which is the plan, essentially. How much, how are you moving your body, which is all 100% your control. And then, so if you are putting in a business sense, if you're doing all of the things, if you're hitting all the customers, you're talking to them at the right times, you're building the rapport, you're nurturing those relationships. If you're putting in the right inputs, then the customer would respond, and that's the process. Then we would, we get an order, we fulfill an order, and then the outcome is we get closer to the $1 billion, which is what we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
That's from a business system standpoint. But if we take it back down to weight loss, so the inputs is everything we just talked about, the food,
Right.
the stress, the sleep, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. The
Then
environment.
the process is how your body is responding to that. And that's what I think could be different for different people. And we have to at least be curious and cognizant of it and not think something's wrong with us. If you ate 1,500 calories, I ate 1,500 calories. We ate the exact same things. You moved exactly how I moved, but you lost 5 pounds and I gained a half a pound.
Mm-hmm.
That's the process side of it.
Right.
So what does your body does?
Yep.
This how your body responds to those inputs. Hormones,
Yep.
insulin, leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, all of that plays into it. It doesn't mean, I think this is also important. I think a lot of people think that if their hormones are completely out of whack, they cannot lose weight. That's not true. If you are in a calorie deficit, you will. You just might not lose it at the rate. That your hormones
Right.
will play into rate, but eventually you don't get out of, unless you don't get out of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
If you are in a calorie deficit, you will lose the weight. Now, the rate will be different depending on what those hormones are doing in your body and what they're allowing your body to, how they're allowing your body to respond, how quickly they're allowing your body to respond. Metabolism and energy expenditure, of course. Digestion, nutrient absorption. I mean, some people have celiacs. You know, there's different things that people absorb from a nutrient standpoint. Recovery and inflammation. Oh my gosh, I just did this long nerdy facts the other night for the VIP group around inflammation. And holy smokes, is it like the canary in the coal mine? But you
Wow.
don't even know it is. How much inflammation really can affect the body and all of the downstream diseases that it can cause if it's chronic enough and not checked. And then how overeating highly palatable processed foods feeds into that. God, we could do a podcast just on those. It was pretty wild. So, I mean, and you influence the process, but you don't directly control all of that. I can't say, well, insulin, you better get your crap together today, but you can support it with the right inputs. So it's almost like I feel like you have full control of the inputs, which is the part we get down on ourselves around because we do want to be perfect with that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not perfect at all of it, this is what's tricky too. When you start on a weight loss journey, you start to open up your eyes to everything that isn't perfect. And then it's like you want everything to be amazing. And we've been reading a book at work, Extreme Ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the clips that we pulled out from one of Jocko
Willink, I think is how you say his last name.
His podcast we've got a summit coming up and we have a speaker coming in that's around extreme ownership and it's from his group. They're coming in to give it's really exciting. So we're getting the crowd, those that are coming for the summit, excited about this, and we're pulling out little snippets. And one of them that you sent out.
Yeah. So I've been, oh man, what a ordeal. So we've been listening to snippets of his podcasts and podcasts that he's been in and trying to relate it to the class that we teach. And one of the snippets that we pulled out related to prioritization as a whole, but he really went into health. And I played it for Lori right before we started to do our own podcast. And it was so impactful to me because he started to talk about prioritization between your family and business and health. Those are three things that are very important to everybody, or should be. And he was, don't quote me on this obviously, but he was going into, sometimes you need to focus on your family because something's going on there, and your family gets pretty strong. They're in a good place. And sometimes you need to focus on the business, and the business is not doing well in a certain area, and you need to focus on that specific area. Sometimes you need to delegate to somebody because they might know about that side of the business more than you, and that's important to delegate. And then they started to go into the health aspect. And the podcast host, because it wasn't Jocko's podcast.
The interviewer.
The interviewer started to ask Jocko, he started talking about dating. He was like, well, yeah, if you started to, and Jocko's married, I'm pretty sure, but he was like, yeah, if you started to date somebody, you might lose out on sleep and you might have to start pretending.
Because you have to attend social events and
you have to attend, so you have to go to nightclubs.
He even said you have to eat normally, and then
you have to eat like a normal person.
Then he kind of laughed like he doesn't eat like that.
Yeah.
Is what I took from that. I thought it was interesting because he gave like a nervous giggle, like I'm probably someone that just eats chicken breast and rice, because he was very fit.
He was very fit, yeah. So he kind of giggled awkwardly, and then he went into. You might kind of give up on your health a little bit because you are going to the social events and not focusing on working out. And Jocko, who is a former Navy SEAL, and he went into, basically, he said, I have never gone for the past 2 decades. I have never gone more than 3 days.
I think he said 2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days without focusing on my health.
Mm-hmm.
Because health is just a pillar, one of the most important things in his life. He even mentioned that he had neck surgery. He said, well, he kind of thought about it, and he said, well, I did have neck surgery. He said, well, no, even when I had neck surgery, I was up 3 days later walking circles in my garage trying to
make something happen. He didn't say he lifted weights, but he was
making
walking
something
around.
happen is what he said.
So was he throwing up a 10 out of a 10? No, but he wasn't throwing up a 0.
He was, for him, he knew himself, right? He knew himself, and he was assessing and evaluating, and he was grading himself. He was trying to make something happen. And I thought that was so interesting because health is so important. And I'm looking at Lori, like pointing at both of us, and I'm sure others who are listening to this podcast, have let our health go. And it is so scary and so sad because it is so important. It is, we have one life.
It is a non-negotiable now.
It is.
And when you really decide that this is what you're doing, and I mean decide, and if you are not doing what you want to be doing on this journey, then you have not decided.
Agreed.
I'll take a hard line on that. There is something that you have not fully decided to do. If you are not able to stick with this for more than a week, if you are not able to drink your water for more than 3 days straight, and you have 3 days where you don't, then there is something you are undecided about. You are undecided that you're not sure if you want to be this kind of person that does this all the time. Or maybe you're not sure if you can be, or you're scared that you're going to let yourself down and gain the weight back. There's all kinds of stuff around that.
And I don't know if I'll say this right. So Lori, I'll ask you to say it. You mentioned one time, a lot of people might think it's selfish to put your health at such a priority because you're putting your health ahead of maybe your family, your health ahead of your children.
You're going to the gym instead of spending that time eating dinner with your kids that evening.
And a lot of people may say, oh my God, how selfish can you be? But we talked about this, I'm pretty sure off air. I don't think we ever podcasted about that.
It was something that I heard on another podcast, and I thought, holy smokes.
It resonated with me though, and I think it fits here. If you remember.
It was, I'll get it wrong, but the idea is that being overweight and not health conscious is actually the most selfish thing you could possibly do.
And just think on that for a second. Like just sit there with that.
What does being overweight as a parent do for your time with the kids? How present are you for them? Can you get up and down off the floor with them? Are you ready to go throw the ball at any time because you feel I'm not saying you have to feel perfect to do it, but let's go for a walk after dinner. I really want to sit and do this homework with you, but you're so overweight. You're so inflamed. You are so tired from the day that you've had to pretend that you were enthusiastic about something at work, but it's exhausted you to no end. I cannot tell you how exhausted I was when I was 355 pounds, especially traveling for work. Traveling, walking, showing up in meetings with enthusiasm, with an attitude that I wanted to portray. All I wanted to do was go back to the hotel room and lie down.
And sometimes,
and how
I know
selfish is that?
Yeah.
For me, for the people that I'm around, I didn't want to go out and do anything. Being overweight, this is going to be controversial, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Being overweight, not metabolically healthy, is the most selfish journey you could be on.
It's more quantity time with your children if you're not at the gym, but less quality time.
I can see that. I mean, I think this could be met with a lot of controversy because I think, we do spend a lot of time saying, it's not a character flaw. But I think if we look at it as, ways an obese journey can be selfish, it is certainly unintentionally so. Right. Obviously, you're not setting off to be, I'm going to eat all these foods, extreme overconsumption of food, way more energy than my body needs to function productively. And nobody's setting off to do that.
Right.
There's a lot of things that are happening, but one of the biggest things I could think of was your cognitive bandwidth gets consumed by the body. There's a lot of energy that's being consumed. There's constant food noise. Constant food noise. And I still see it today in maintenance when I know I'm not going to be perfect on this journey. I'm not going to probably never have a cupcake again. But when I do allow myself that, and it's typically planned, and when I do plan something like that, that's not exactly the most probably nutrient, let's call it nutrient dense. I'm trying to find a different way to say on plan or off plan food. Yeah. Let's call it non-nutrient dense food. So sterile, but it's like, okay, it's food that's not getting me closer to a goal. I don't know. It's a cupcake. It doesn't have food that has no sugar. I don't know.
Sugar rich.
When I have things that light me up, let's say that in a different way than broccoli does.
Yeah.
Like I'm not driving 2 hours to go get broccoli. I'll drive 2 hours to get a pizza.
Yeah. I probably have driven 2 hours.
No doubt. No doubt. I know my food noise is going to be higher after I have that. Mm-hmm. That's hands down. And that's when, especially if you are eating to satiate your body and supply nutrients to your body versus not, it's a huge difference between the 5 days that I was eating exactly what my body needed. And then the moment I don't, there's a definite change in my brain personally. So the food noise, I'm more consumed by food noise and my energy is consumed by that. And then, of course, there's what happens in your body. I'm bloated. I'm inflamed. Right. Now my gut is like, what did you do? So there's body discomfort and or pain. Yep. And clothes aren't fitting the same. Like, especially if you were wearing some really tight, like a tight outfit, holy smokes.
Well, and I've spent a lot of money on clothes. And not like because I wanted to, but because I've lost the weight. So I threw away all my big clothes because I'm like, I'm never going to be in this size again.
And that's actually really good to do that from an identity standpoint.
It is good. But then I'm like, okay, so I get to buy all these cute clothes and then I gain the weight again. So I had to buy bigger clothes again. If we had
all the clothes that we've ever had, I would have everything from a size 4 to a size 28.
Yeah. So, but I've never thrown away my smaller clothes. So that's the good thing.
I have gotten rid of some of them, but I have to.
I'm like, I don't really want these pants anymore because they're pretty like they're worn. Like I just don't. So I thought
when I was down 100 pounds in weight loss mode this last time, I was encouraged by one of the coaches to get rid of the big clothes. And I didn't want to because I had gained it. And I had this moment of fear
throw
of
them
like,
away every time.
man, but I'm going to gain. I really thought that. And I'm like, no,
You're not.
And I didn't get rid of them at first, but there was, she knew. She didn't go into all the science behind it. And that's when I started to like, okay, so what is behind this? Because there is something going on in your brain behind this. Even just psychologically saying goodbye to that part of you, that bit of identity of what served you at one point, what helped you get through things. So even though I'm saying being on an obese journey is selfish, it did something for me at one point.
Yeah.
It got me through something. But there's a time when you have to say goodbye to that kind of thing because it's not working the way it once did.
Yeah.
Shame, avoidance comes with it.
Yeah.
Decision fatigue.
Yeah, decision fatigue. Yeah. Healthcare costs too is something that I thought of. Like there's a huge strain on the healthcare industry because so much healthcare focus goes towards obesity.
Yeah.
Like diabetes medication, all the GLP-1 focus. And I'm not trying to be flippant, but imagine the focus that could go towards cancer or other things. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, as an obese person, like it's really sad.
We are hurting ourselves so much by over consuming the calories our bodies don't need.
And we all know that when you're overweight, other illnesses come with it. So we're hurting ourselves. We're only hurting ourselves.
I mean, when your mental energy is dominated by just managing your thoughts around food and then how your body shows up. I mean, I remember at 355 pounds walking through the airport, I'm breathing heavy, just walking. I'm walking with my suitcase. I'm breathing heavy. I remember being in line and holding my breath. Just the mental, I know that's, I'm laughing about it now.
So people wouldn't listen to you.
Yeah, so people didn't, oh, she's breathing heavy, you know, and all she was doing was walking. But if I wasn't breathing heavy, then they wouldn't notice me. Or, you know, so just the time that I spent managing my body, the mental energy that you get rid of, like you just don't think about those things anymore. I don't have to think about which chair I need to choose. Do I need a booth or do I need a chair in a restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh, if I turn my body this way, maybe I won't take up as much room on this tram that's going to take us to this next part of the airport. You know, there's all these things. And then there's just simply less bandwidth available for others.
Yeah.
Because you're so consumed with how you're showing up. It's unintentional. I think even half of it is you don't even realize you're doing it when you're that heavy. Because I had to really sit and think, like, why do I just feel so much more present? And it was because all of this stuff just sloughed away as it just stopped happening.
And I think that's the key point. It's not intentionally selfish.
It's not.
We're not saying that to be cruel.
But when I heard that, I was like, gut punch.
Wow.
To be on an obese journey, because you're on a journey either way. Me and you were talking about that this morning, that you're either, you know, getting up every day and eating the foods that you said you were going to eat and drinking the water and getting the sleep and getting the movement in. It feels like it can feel very mundane. It can feel very boring. It could feel just like a slog sometimes. But you're either on that journey or you're on the obese journey. So which one do you want to be on? Which one is going to make you feel the best? Which one's going to let you show up for others and for yourself? Avoidance also starts dictating life choices. And I think this shows up really sneakily. And people, it's the things you don't do versus the things you do. People often begin to avoid, I mean, I did. I tried to travel as little as possible. Or when I did, I'd have to really gear myself up for it. Events. How many times did I say no to going to a nice event because I didn't want to show up in whatever clothes that I knew I only had available to me to fit into?
Mm-hmm.
Physical activities. Hell no. We're going to do a volleyball tournament at work? Not me. I'm not even saying I'm doing that today, but I could. Intimacy is another one. Just being spontaneous. Like being able to go, yeah, let's go do that today. Let's go see that one thing at the art museum. I would have never have thought to do that at 355 pounds, to walk around an art museum.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't sound appealing at all. But when your knees don't hurt and your joints don't hurt and moving around for even an hour doesn't sound like the pits of hell.
Yeah.
You can be more spontaneous.
You have little desire to do anything and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Going back to intimacy, that's a really important one. Just being a good partner in general is really hard when you're that tired.
And when I don't love the way I look,
yeah,
I can't appreciate if he does.
Yeah. Well, you're not confident in your own skin.
No.
It's a little hard.
I don't want you to touch me.
Yeah. I don't want you to look at me. I don't want you to touch
look at me. Don't touch me.
Yeah. I mean, you skipped by that one really fast, and I think that's an important one.
I think over time, the decisions you make around these are based on subconscious questions even. Maybe these, you don't even know you're doing this, but can I handle this? Will my body be okay walking this extra mile through the airport because all the escalators aren't working? Will I be embarrassed? What will they think of me because I will be the biggest one in the room when I walk in?
I've thought that before.
Well, I've even scanned the room to see if I was the biggest one before. I'm like, yep, here I am. Nope. That guy's bigger than me.
Thank God he's here.
Yeah. Check. So bad. And then I think there's things like your loved ones or your family, friends may experience just, I wasn't in that picture on the vacation. And that's a missed memory. You were there, but did you experience, did you get to, okay, so this also happened. We went to Florida a lot with some friends from Chattanooga, and I was at my peak of heaviness, and we were asked to go to Florida, and they wanted to go on a fishing trip. I didn't want to go on this boat at that weight and be in the sun all day. And I just thought I would be miserable. So I didn't go. So I stayed at home, and it was only like a couple hours. I'm like, well, I'll just sleep in, and I get to see, my excuse was that I just want to read a book on the patio and look out at the ocean, which was lovely. Don't get me wrong. It was fantastic. I'm telling you, when they got back from this fishing trip, that sounds like it was the most fun thing anybody has ever experienced. I mean, I was out on the back deck looking out over the ocean. It was peaceful. It was quiet. I was with the Great Dane of hers at the time. Me and Roman were just having a good time out on the deck. They come in bustling with laughter, giggling, like, did you see that? I can't believe you caught that fish. It was amazing. Laura, you got to, I mean, they had pictures, and just the energy that they brought when they come in, I was immediately jealous that I didn't experience with them.
It's sad when we miss out on those experiences, but you get to have those now. You have made the unselfish decision going forward. And that's the key part.
And I'm getting upset because...
And that's why I'm talking instead of Lori right now.
I didn't think it would make me upset, but I'm never going to be in those pictures.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be on the boat with them. I'm never going to have that story to tell with them. And we still, it's been like 12 years since it happened, and they still talk about it when they get together because it was so much fun. It was such an experience for them. And I missed out on that. And I don't want to miss out on that kind of stuff anymore. And I don't want anybody else to feel like that either. And I actually didn't realize I felt like that until I actually talked. I mean, so.
And now I'm crying because she's
sorry.
crying.
God. So it's the missed memories. And when I just say missed memories, it doesn't sound like it holds a lot of weight, but it can.
It obviously does.
It was so cool. I love seeing the pictures. There's this really cool picture of Randy holding up this shark. And we got to eat shark, and it's amazing. I would have never thought that. I would say
I
that
know
shark
the
was really
exact
good.
picture that you're talking about.
And he's smiling from ear to ear. And nobody in that group is like, we can't believe you weren't there, Lori. I mean,
No,
of
they
course,
wouldn't.
Of course they're like,
They're
we
an
wish
awesome
you would have
group.
been there. But
Yeah.
there's an emotion there that, I mean, 12 years later, that I'll never be in those pictures.
Mm-hmm. Use that as fuel. Until next time, stay curious.
Keep experimenting.